Off my chest. Throwaway 937 U3U says. The guy friend she told me not to worry about ends up cheating on me with him. My ex-GF never seemed like the kind of person who would deceive and betray me. That was one of the reason I introduced her to my family after some time in our relationship, because to me, she felt worth it. It was first relationship for both of us, and I thought we'll end up being together forever. At some point in relationship she started seeking male friendships behind my back, and we had both set a boundary in our relationship that no opposite gender friends. I found out about her hidden social accounts and confronted her. First she lied, and I thought maybe I was bluffing, but eventually admitted, but told me he's just a friend. Fast forward, she started being distant, disrespectful, and wouldn't wanna travel to see me because in her words she was tired and can't travel. We lived in bordering countries, so when I had the time I decided to pay her a visit. To my surprise, this person who would be so happy to see me always was so cold and didn't seem excited about my visit. I knew something was off, but after exhausting travel I really wanted to sleep, so I asked her that let's talk after I get some rest. After an hour or so police wakes me up. I couldn't process what was happening. They were shouting at me and accusing me of having harmed them. The police investigated me and treated me as if I was a criminal. Mind you, I've never even raised my voice at my GF. Long story short, they see I've not done anything and tell me to collect my things and that I'm not welcomed in their home, but anywhere else in the country is fine. I had gifted her a tablet for studying, so I thought to take it back as it was right there, and when I opened it, I saw ongoing text conversation between my ex-GF and this guy friend, as she had her socials installed there too. This part traumatized me, because what I saw was unbelievable. The guy told her to call cops on me and accuse me. She complied. I saw screenshots of our conversation and they both laughing at me for cheating. I felt so violated and that my privacy and trust was broken. I showed the cops the conversation and left the tablet there. It has been a long time since this event happened, but I never recovered from this trauma. I have nightmares and get panic attacks about being woken by police. I feel unsafe in my body and I can't afford therapy. I've fallen behind in my studies and my bills. I have lost a lot of weight and the trauma just doesn't seem to heal with time. I've been left with permanent scars in them. They never seemed affected by this. Already dating this new guy, as if we were never in a relationship. They moved on so fast and so easily, and even RN that I'm typing this they are happy and I'm suffering. I don't know how much longer I can cope with this. I can't get that picture of them both laughing at me while I was suffering and getting investigated by the police, and the thought that they might have had sex while we were already in a relationship. Deadpool Shinny says. Best way to get revenge is to live your life to the fullest. Work out for stress relief. Learn new tricks and trades to make you more successful. Use your pain as a motivator to become a better you. Don't go back to her if she comes knocking on your door. Mexican 1818 says. Relationships that start by cheating will usually end by cheating. They know what they did and will not trust each other. Catus Sorius says. No opposite gender friends is a crazy rule. Seriously, that's nuts. Throwaway 937 U3U says. They told me they were not comfortable with female friends around me, and I had no interest in other females, so we both agreed that we won't pursue deep friendships with opposite gender and just have them as acquaintances. Coax says. Please do not go back to her. Henry Jonesture 83 says. Both set a boundary in our relationship that no opposite gender friends. How all great relationships start/s. I had gifted her a tablet for studying, so I thought to take it back. You had no right to do this. If this was a gift and not a loan. I don't know how much longer I can cope with this. You'll be okay. Learning this stuff is part of life. Off my chest. Psychology typical 935 says. Pandemic left me locked in my house with my cheating wife. I've pondered a lot the idea of me posting this story, and based on the title I'm sure you realize that this story is now closing in on 3 years old. However, I felt at this point that it is good to get this off my chest. At the time, I, 30 meters at the time, was happily married to my 30 female wife. We had been married around 6 years. I will refer to her from here on as Sarah, not her real name. We traveled, ate together and spent time together basically every night for the first 6 years of the marriage. During 2019, I started to see some warning signs that, in retrospect, should have told me something was up. In early 2019, I had to be out of town for a work conference, the first time that I had ever been gone overnight from home without her. She immediately suggested that her friend might come visit and even stay over those days. Now for context, this friend 29 male, I will refer to him as Mark, is someone she texted all the time. They were close friends, and I know for a fact had been intimate with before we met. I put my foot down and said no, pointing out he never came over in 6 years, except the one time I was gone. While she got mad, she respected my wishes to the best of my knowledge, and the scenes from the security cameras. There were other things as well that gave me pause, but for the interest of time I will move on. Now we arrive at the end of 2019. As we are in a movie theater together, I notice her writing messages to someone on her Apple Watch during the movie. This was very unusual for her to do, and the messages, although I can't remember them, were a bit strong for a coworker at a new job but nothing overtly sexual/romantic. I ask her about it after the movie, and she brushes it off. Her behavior changes, sitting away from me on the couch, changing in a different room, and so on. I start to wonder, am I being cheated on, or what is being hidden from me? I feel tremendous guilt for even thinking about checking her phone for confirmation, feeling that if I do, and I'm wrong, there's no point in continuing to be married. After thinking about it for days, I decide to check in January 2020. Now, her phone is always close by, and I don't know the passcode. Luckily, her watch is accessible, and she made the code our anniversary, irony abound. What I discover next is horrifying. Sarah and Mark discussing her hookups with a coworker, them mocking me for not noticing what is going on, Sarah discussing how the idea of me touching her is revolting, how she can't imagine having kids with me. We had been trying in mid-2019, so this especially hurt. Then I read the messages between Sarah and the coworker, we will call him Carl. Those messages are explicit, and Sarah shows more affection for him in every way than she shows me now. And each message tells me a new revelation that hurts more. That a trip, she said, was to console a friend was really so that the friend could meet Carl. That she began changing in the bathroom so I wouldn't see the hickeys on her body. That her therapist knows all of this and says I should be made aware, but that she should be happy with whoever. I stay up till 3 or 4 AM reading these messages and taking pictures of everything. I don't sleep that night, my jaw clenched so hard all night it caused issues for months. She leaves for work, I'm off that day, and my first phone call is to a lawyer. What are my options? When I confront her, what can I say/not say legally? I wait for her to come home, reading over the messages, to confirm it wasn't the worst dream I ever had. When I confront her, I tell her what I know, without revealing I had been in her texts. I tell her I spotted the hickey, a lie, but she mentioned it in the messages, that I know she's texting someone. Sarah lies, tries to argue it is someone else that gave her the hickey, but finally I read a message from her watch. I guess what I expected was for her to break down and admit everything. Instead, Sarah explodes in rage that I violated her privacy. The insanity and gaslighting of trying to convince me that I was the bad guy here blew me away. She stormed out of the house and disappeared for 3 days. No communication as to where she was, even though I asked her to tell me where she was staying, so I knew she'd be safe. To this day, I only know a small part about where she went or what she did. When she comes back, she tells me she wants to try to fix things and spend some time together. It doesn't go well. I catch her sneaking off to meet with him once again as she foolishly leaves the watch behind, and I can read the messages in real time. I finally tell her in February 2020 that I contacted a lawyer. She insists she won't sign anything until we attend couples counseling. I humor it, but it goes off the rails immediately when, after I explain we're here because she had an affair, that she argues my word choice, affair, was too strong a word. She also lies about the fact that she cheated on me before Cole with a married man, something I discovered at a later date going through her watch once again. She admits her plan was to find an apartment, then hand me papers without me ever knowing what is going on. She even tries to blame the whole affair on me, using, in the therapist's view, minor disagreements as proof of my cold and uncaring demeanor. One example, I didn't immediately scream at my parents for a Christmas gift she didn't like, or at her parents when they playfully made fun of her. At this point, the decision is made. I need to divorce her, as she will never tell the truth. We agree Sarah will move out of our house, and I even help her find an apartment. Anything to get her out of the house faster. One day in March 2020, I watch the news of COVID coming, and all construction work stops. Her apartment was almost ready, but was being renovated. Now there's nowhere for her to go. I'm stuck in the house with her from March to June of 2020. For those wondering, she has enough legal knowledge to know that leaving would make her case harder and might still have to pay expenses. Those 3 or so months were hell. Trying to do my job and live in a house with a person who had wronged me and ridiculed me was unbearable at times. We tried, as best we could, to keep it civil and not scream at each other every time we passed each other. Imagine spending 90+ days cooking meals, passing by, and seeing no one else in the world but the person who ended your marriage and broke your heart. Every day featured me essentially locking myself in a room for 8 hours, then doing yard work or working out to avoid speaking with her. She moved out for the most part in late June, once the world started to open up a bit, and had all of her items out by July. Knowing that I wanted the house, she definitely manipulated the situation to her advantage, to avoid her being publicly shamed. Her family, to this day, doesn't know what caused the divorce. She didn't tell them the divorce was happening at all till after the papers were signed, and essentially forced me to pretend we were still together until then, at which point I told her to tell her parents or I would. They never asked me what was the cause, although 1 or 2 did wish me well. I never felt the need to tell them, as despite the pain and gaslighting she caused, I didn't feel the need to hurt them. Her parents never wronged me. Carl and Sarah didn't last. When I found out, Carl told her to leave me and be with him. But she tried to mend our relationship and he walked away from her, so she ended up with no one. Sarah and I rarely speak now, unless it's absolutely necessary, which is rare. I've wondered at times if maybe I was wrong for not publicly outing her infidelity. The people who are important to me know the truth. I also never confronted, or spoke to for that matter, Carl, or Mark, or her friend, who knew about all of this, but never warned me. As for me, I found someone who is truly a good person, and have a great relationship. I've never told Sarah as it's none of her business. Much like telling her family about her cheating, I thought about telling Sarah how well I'm doing, but I think that is just schadenfreude. Thanks for reading, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Too long, didn't read, discovered wife's affair, covered hit before she fully moved out, forced to live with her through months of the pandemic, her family doesn't know the feeling. Dad says, glad you made it out sane and alive, my guy. An explosive situation like that between 2 formerly close people being then sequestered into a single house during a lockdown for a global pandemic sounds like the plot of a claustrophobic psychological thriller from David Fincher where carnage abounds. No reply at all. 817 says. It's never too late to tell everyone. Don't think she hasn't created her own narrative making you the bad person. Chriso 434 says. Not all heroes wear capes. Well done my man, well done. Screwier says. Congrats for surviving. Glad she's out of your life because you two don't have kids. Glad to hear you are doing well. Living your best life is the best revenge. The new aesthetic says. I don't have much to say other than I enjoyed the read and I'm glad that you made it to a better place mentally. Sonsofstelord says. What cruel evil woman you married. Jesus Christ mate. Akileroff Joy says. I'd never dismiss the cathartic value of schadenfreude. Which means you are a much more noble man than I could ever be. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.